Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the Almighty, the Beneficent, and the Merciful. Asad taking the holy progeny as his prisoners on the journey to Kufa. Why? What crimes have they committed? It should be those people who are responsible for the massacre on the day of Ashra, who should be locked up. Imam Zain al-Abidin replied to the decision of Asad by saying, Asad, we have no choice but to agree to your governor's order. But before we depart for Kufa, can I please be allowed to give ghusl, kafan, and bury my family members and the companions of my father? After hearing this, Asad refused. How hurtful must have this been for Imam Sajjad, his father, who was the grandson of Rasulullah, to be refused for burial. More heartache, more tears for the widows and orphans of Karbala. Asad ordered his men to tie the woman's hand and feet together with the necks of the young children with one long single rope. If one of them fell, the rope pulled on the other, and if an adult fell, the rope pulled on the children's neck, choking them. Our poor Imam was just recovering from his illness when handcuffed and heavily chained. Around his hands, neck, and feet, the weight of the chains dragged our Imam back. He could hardly move. Thereafter, a long procession was prepared to take Imam Zain al-Abidin, the ladies and children on the journey to Kufa. Asad rode on the horse in the front, followed by a few soldiers, holding the long spears on which pierced and raised high the heads of Imam Husayn, Abbas, Ali Akbar, Qasim, Own, Muhammad, Hur, Habib, John, and the rest of the martyrs. Little Ali Asgar's head was also on the spear. After Ali Asgar was slaughtered on the day of Ashura by a three-pronged arrow, his parents, Imam Husayn and Lady Rabab, with their own hands buried their baby in a small grave behind the tents. But those brutal army men had the audacity to poke their spears into the plains of Karbala so that they may find the body of baby Ali Asgar. No words can describe how much pain those mothers of Karbala must have felt, seeing their children in such a condition. Now let us focus our hearts and mind on the daughters of little Sakina, of the daughters of Karbala. Little Sakina, the 4-year-old daughter of Imam Husayn. Sakina too saw the bodies of her father, Imam Husayn. My heart breaks into pieces when I remember the whispering of Sakina. Mother, please bring Uncle Hazrat Abbas back. I promise I will never ask for water again. Tears flowing from her eyes. Allahu Akbar. Whilst on this journey to Kufa, Imam Zain al-Abidin was made to walk on foot, heavily handcuffed and chained. Imam Zain al-Abidin sees his father's body headless and covered with spears. Imam Zain al-Abidin felt deep in his heart when he remembered his father without any coffin on the plains of Karbala, and now gazing at his father's severed head raised on a spear. This made his whole body tremble with grief. The sharp spikes around his neck, hands and feet dug even more deeply into his flesh. On the 11th Muharram, the holy prisoners reached the gates of Kufa. High on the gates were the heads of Muslim ibn Aqil and his 2 sons. The people of Kufa were not told the true identity of the prisoners. They were brainwashed that some rebels tried to attack and conquer the city, and these rebels were defeated and killed in Karbala. They were lied to, and the prisoners brought to the city were the rebels' families. The martyrs and their families were presented to the people of Kufa as criminals. The people of Kufa believed what they were told, and on the day when the holy prisoners arrived to Kufa, thousands of men and women were told to gather around the streets. The procession of Ahlul Bayt was made to walk around these streets and marketplace. It was a very hot day. Imam Zain al-Abidin handcuffed and heavily chained. Zainab and Kulsum, the rest of the families, their hands tied and without hijab, they were paraded in these streets. being paraded without their hijab hurt Lady Zainab and Kulsum the most. The head of the martyrs raised on the spears were also paraded through the marketplace of Kufa. The people of Kufa shouted abuses at this holy progeny. Muslims shouted abuses at the Holy Prophet's family. Can you imagine the scene? Imam Zainul Abidin watching his mothers Layla and Rubab and Aunt Zainab and Kulsum being paraded with their hands tied and no hijab. Our poor Imam used to say that this was the most painful time for him. The daughters of Lady Fatima being paraded without their hijab. The procession of the Ahlul Bayt in the city of Kufa was taken from one street to another, from one marketplace to another. An old lady recognized the scorching heat of Kufa. She noticed the children of the Ahlul Bayt were hot, tired, and thirsty. She approached Bibi Sakina with a glass of water. Bibi Sakina prayed for the lady. However, the glass of water reminded her of her uncle Hazrat Abbas and her brother Hazrat Asghar, who was butchered without a single drop of water. Sakina began crying. Lady Zainab rushed to comfort Sakina. The lady told Zainab that she reminded her of a noble princess, the daughters of Imam Ali. She said, "Before I die, I would like to do my Imam Ziyarat." Before Zainab replied, she was in pain and said, "Your wish is granted. I am Zainab, daughter of Imam Ali. Here is Kulsum. And if you look upon that spear is the head of your Imam Husayn." She threw herself onto the feet of Zainab, realizing the calamities that befell upon the holy household, and how they were paraded around the streets of Kufa without hijab. Tears were flowing from her eyes, and she turned towards Yazid's men. Beating her head, she wailed and cried out, "What have you done, you shameful people? You call yourselves the followers of the Prophet, and you have killed his grandson. The Almighty Allah will never forgive you, and you will burn in the fire of hell." Yazid's guards feared that the rest of people would Kufa would also find out the true identity of the prisoners. They rushed to the old lady and whipped her harshly till she fainted, and then threw her aside. These holy personalities carried the message of Imam Husayn and publicized it through the platform of these majalis. Imam Zain al-Abidin and Bibi Zainab, it extended the message of Karbala beyond Karbala. And if it were not for them, then we would not be here today, and Karbala would have been a brief chapter in the holy books. Peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet, to whom the Holy Quran was revealed, his beloved daughter, the Lady of Light, and upon the 12 true successors, the first being Imam Ali and the last being the awaited of Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi. Mercy and blessings be upon all of you. May Allah remove His mercy from those who transgress. Soon shall those who deal with others unjustly come to know what an evil turning theirs lot shall turn. We are all from Allah, and to Him we shall return. Salawat.